The following podcast is brought to you on behalf of the Saracen Supporters Association and is not an official product of Saracens Limited. Content provided voluntarily by our guests and contributors are of their own opinion, which may change over time and should not be taken as fact, particularly as the podcast hosts are regularly talking drivel anyway. If you've got some drivel of your own you'd like to share, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at fezcast_SSA. You can search Facebook for the Fezcast, or you can email fezcast.ssa@outlook.com.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
Well, hello everybody and welcome to another edition of the Fezcast. I think we're up to episode 9 now. This is getting to be a bit like Sons of Anarchy or something. You know, how many, and you got Walking Dead, you got to stay to the end and whatever. But joining me on this episode is Jo and Jon. Matt's having a break, although he's done an interview with Ine-Mari and Monique of the Saracens Mavericks, which we're going to play in the middle of it. But Jo, Jon, how are we, folks? Are we all good?
Yeah, we're all good, thank you. The 3 J's this week, I love it.
Absolutely, yeah. And yourself, Jon?
Yeah, perfect, mate. It was a good weekend, and I'm looking forward to reliving it.
Oh, excellent. Well, absolutely, yeah. I mean, Jo, you were at the game at the StoneX for the women's against Loughborough Lightning, which we will deal with in our final part of tonight, along with the Women's World Cup performance against South Africa. I take it we all watched the Chiefs game on the telly.
I saw the second half.
Oh, of course, because in a brilliant piece of scheduling, the women's game was on at the same time as the men's game. I mean, no conjoined thinking there whatsoever, is there?
It wasn't ideal scheduling, no. But to be fair to Sarries, they did put the second half of the game up on the Olympic bar at the stadium. So a few people stayed behind to watch that.
And of course, you got to see the most important part of the game, which is absolutely brilliant. And yourself, Jon, you watched it all on the telly, I assume?
I didn't. With our previous record at Sandy Park, I'll be honest, I really thought that we would be potentially 5-1 after the weekend. So Charlie and I went on a stadium tour around Twickenham with my brother, and it weren't until I was on the way back, got off the Victoria line to see what had unfolded at Sandy Park, and we were stood outside the toilets where I had a good signal spot waiting for the result of the penalty kick at the end.
Well, there you go. Well, we'll talk a little bit about that and other things. Obviously, the ongoing side with Wasps and Worcester and clubs going out of business and whatever, and we'll have a quick discussion about that. You'll notice I've had quite a sharp haircut. But for those of you obviously listening in, you won't know this, but I've had a sharp haircut, and I can explain why. Because I mean, you know, Jon, you don't get a lot of option in this, do you? Really? I mean, that's just the way you got to go. But yeah, I'm back in training for marathons and everything. I've got a little thing going on for my year on at the end of November to link in with Kevin Sinfield 7 in 7, which I will talk about in a future episode of the Fezcast. But I was on the treadmill and my hair was getting a bit long and it was flapping about, and I was thinking, really, I need to tie it back or something. And then I saw Stuart Hogg on the weekend, and I'd realised what a dick he looks like, and I thought, sod it. Out come the Clippers. Shazza, number 1 all over, thank you very much. And yeah, he did look a bit of a dick, didn't he? But let's have a word from one of our advertisers, and then we'll come back and discuss Exeter Chiefs at Sandy Park.
You're listening to the Fezcast, which is proudly sponsored by the Saracen Supporters Association, and I'm Alison Davis, one of the SSA committee. For a £10 annual subscription, the SSA provides our members with monthly newsletters, virtual and in-person player events, away match ticket allocations, and we organise pre-match gatherings at away matches. We sponsor men's and women's players, and we support the Saracens Foundation Track Club on behalf of our members. On top of all that, every year we have a seasonal SSA badge, which is exclusive to members. Where else can you get that much value for a tenner? Join now at membermojo.co.uk/SSA, or come and see us on match day in the Oasis at the StoneX.
This is the Fezcast.
Well, here we are. Let's have a chat about the big game on the weekend down at Sandy Park. we went down there, as you said, John, in our preamble. If we'd lost that game, it was one of them that you would have thought, yeah, well, such is life. But yeah, it's always good to go down to Chiefs. And actually, I'm going to put an idea out there. Hopefully someone from Saracens thinks this, and we've got to be careful there because you can't go too arrogant. We can't go all Tony Rowe. But when we play Chiefs at StoneX, can somebody, for the end of the game, if we win, have come on Eileen by Dex's Midnight Runners, rolled up, ready to go? So if we win, we can do it. And then we get to that point right at the start. Poor old Tony Rowe. It fits. Poor old Johnny Ray. But I'm sorry, my singing's awful, I know. But it fits. And imagine that. 15,000 of us singing poor old Tony Rowe. Wasn't that, though, the most... Is there a more arrogant bloke in rugby than Tony Rowe? Sat there on the bench as if he was ready to come on himself and play, giving it the old Billy Big Balls, and then just to watch Alex Good on 338 appearances slot it over without a care in the world. I mean, that just made my day on Saturday. What about you guys?
I thought it was brilliant. First kick he's done all season, I think, and started it right between the posts, and it was just like, oh, well, there you go. And from what we saw on the TV, I mean, it was a big cheer at the StoneX. I can tell you, you probably could hear it at down at Sandy Park, but it was an absolute belter. It's lovely just watching the smug look drain from somebody's face when they're thinking that they're home and dry. And it's a shame that some of the guys have got niggles. It's been put on social media this week, hasn't it, today, around some of the guys dropping out of the autumn training camp in Jersey. But as for the result, absolute blinder.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm not sure whether it's a game that Saracens won as much as Exeter Chiefs lost. And I mean, it was a typical backs to the wall, wolf pack, Saracens kind of performance. But Chiefs had more than enough opportunities to be far enough ahead. And that was our big concern, where we've seen games where, like against Quins, where we went down 17 points or whatever and to come back, doing that against Chiefs. And Chiefs really should have been far ahead of us. Faz in the sin bin, Mako in the sin bin, and we do need to have a quick word about Faz as well on that. But yeah, no, Chiefs at half time should have been out of sight, I think. Don't you agree, John?
Yeah, I mean, when you consider the possession and the territory and the opportunities that, although they didn't make any, having got back home and then watched the whole game in full, obviously it's different when you know the result. But there was times when I was watching it and I'm going, yeah, I'm not sure how they haven't made more of this. But when you see, really, apart from the scoreboard, the key stat was that scrum penalties, 7-0. And you see how dominant we were. And to be fair, you mentioned Mako there. I know he was off the pitch for 10 minutes. But to be there right at the end and to front up like he did, and the rest of the pack, not just Mako, but such an unbelievable performance. And sometimes when you see the tackle stats at half time and we've made 4 times as many tackles, normally you think you're not going to keep this up for 80 minutes, but the boys did, and proud of every single one of them. And it was just it was a lovely result, and fair to say we all enjoyed our Saturday night, especially in my house. We did anyway.
Yeah, well, I mean, you mentioned the scrum penalties and everything, and Foley, the referee, has been getting a bit of grief from the Southwest about his referee and saying, typically biased, the Chiefs got one. No, quite simply, they brought on the lad at tight head, and Mako tied him up in knots. And Mako's not the best scrummaging prop in the world. He does a good job, but he's more renowned for his work in the loose. Well, James Flynn came on and did a brilliant job as well. But the lad just couldn't scrummage. He got his feet in the wrong place. He got his weight all distribution all wrong. And they put him on toast, and he did nothing about it, and fully deserving, And at that last scrum, you could see the commitment was there. They knew exactly what they wanted to do. And considering at that point you had James Flynn, Theo Dan, and Alec Clary on as your front row, which, you're not going to look at saying is your first choice front row with no disrespect to those three guys, because they are going to be used quite a lot over the next few weeks with the autumn internationals and everything. But they, just said, we're going to go straight, we're going to go up, and we're going to get that penalty. And they did a wonderful job did a job on Chiefs.
As I say, I only caught the second half, and I haven't had a chance to catch up on the rest of it. But certainly the bits that we caught, they were dominant. But you're right. From hearing bits and pieces from that first half, I'm surprised that Exeter didn't have Saracens done and dusted by half time. And it sounds like that they've just not managed to convert, and Saracens have put in a great defensive shift as well. So, those two things have resulted in a really good result for the guys over the weekend.
Well, yeah, I think the penalty and the defence side of things is really important to note there, mainly because I think throughout the game, Saracens gave away 6 penalties, one of which was a reversal of Owen, where he got a bit of a strop on with Harry Williams. And I completely understand why he did. Shouldn't have done it. Say that straight off. Should not have done it. However, the way that Exeter Chiefs go into rucks, they should have been penalised off the pitch of the way. And I say it every time I see Chiefs against whoever. The way they go into rucks is dangerous. And they're coached to do it. They're off their feet. They're past the ball. I mean, there was one ruck towards the end of the game from what Chiefs scored a try off of as well. The Vermeulen try. Ollie Woodburn was it when he was in Cornwall when he finished the contacts, and they let them get away with that. The only other penalties was Mack, who I thought was a bit unlucky for his yellow card, because actually I think he came from behind the back foot. And he didn't shift his binding, and a different ref, a different day may not have given that. He's Tom Foley's on the pitch; he's nearer to it than I was, and he's obviously seen something I haven't. The other one was a bit of a petulant trip from Faz on Jack Noel. I mean, yeah, Faz, hang your head in shame on that one, mate. And I'm sure he will do. I'm sure he'll be looking back now and saying that was a bit of a dick move to do. Although, you look at the social media and everybody saying it was thuggery. No, it wasn't. It was just childish. And, it wasn't like he turned around and gave him a whack. He just tripped him up. But, yeah, but other than that, the discipline, the offside line was held, the speed from that into defence without breaking the offside line was exemplary, which Chiefs couldn't achieve, hence why they were pinged, and then when you've got the wind behind you and you've got Elliot Daly with a left boot that's like a howitzer, well, you're asking for trouble, aren't you? And I mean, that was big, that kick.
Yeah, it was. It was, and when you look back at the moments in which during the game in which these moments happen, is there's so many times during the game where, all right, you give the credit to Alex Gould and Elliot Daly and Farrell for clearing the crossbar, but when you look back and there's so many little intricacies and little smart moves, which must annoy the opposition. There was one for, I think it was the second kick that Daly took. No, it was the first one in the first half. Ivan Van Zyl rolled really one too many times and trapped the Chiefs player on the wrong side, and we got a penalty for that. Now, if he weren't as switched on, it might not have happened, and them 3 points would have made all the difference in the end. But this is the thing that people underestimate. Well, I don't know if they underestimate, but the one thing I love about Saracens is under the cosh, you've got that. All right, a bit of petulance, like you said, but for the majority, there's a coolness there. You always feel like, don't worry, we're in control. There's so much trust that the guys have got in the coaching staff and in each other. And I always believe in situations like that, even though I was following it basically on Twitter on the train in between getting signal and not, always was confident we was going to win, because the amount of times we've done stuff like that, it's not a coincidence, is it? And it's just the amount of pictures I've seen of Tony Rowe and of Rob Baxter, and they put Ali Heffer up instead. Even so, you have people like, it's usually Kelly Brown, like during the game, but Mark McCall will always front up. Even after the Premiership final, I'm sure he didn't want to be anywhere near a TV camera, but he had the testicular fortitude to do it, and it shows the mark of the man. And He's part of the reason why I really do not like Exeter Chiefs and was extra happy that we won because
Absolutely.
of two men.
I tell you, who wasn't extra happy that we won, and I don't know whether you picked this up in the second half on the telly at StoneX, Joe, but Brian O'Driscoll and Ben Kay most certainly were not happy, and I think I tweeted at the time, and we won't do too much on this, but I tweeted, Bod, for as great a player as he was, he is the exact reverse as a pundit. God, he's awful. I mean, he made me wish for Austin Healy and Lawrence Delanio at one point or the other. I mean, he was just absolutely clueless, I thought.
That's interesting to note, actually, because it does make me laugh. Some of the commentary and punditry that seems to come across, and Sarries are always going to be the antithesis for most people for some bizarre reason. I don't know what it is. Unless you're a supporter of the club, it seems to be the direct opposite. There's no kind of middle ground. It's like Marmite, isn't it? And I find that a little bit odd and a little bit frustrating. But it is what it is. The supporters of the team and the club as a whole will always prevail and see the guys, the girls, the Mavs all through. So,
absolutely. I just don't understand why, when it's Saracens playing, why they don't get like a Jim Hamilton in, who's got a Saracens, background to give that Saracen side almost. And
so Ben Kay played Saracens 15 times in his career and he won 12 times. Ben Kay's always all right with us. Austin Healy played for Leicester. Brian O'Driscoll played for Leinster, as we know. We've beaten both of those sides in major finals. And I'm telling you, that's what it is. I guarantee it.
Well, maybe it is. But we need to move on and have a quick word about a couple of results over the weekend and then have a quick look forward to Sale Sharks. First of all, Sale, could have gone 100% the same as us, 6 from 6. Surprisingly got beaten by a bit of a Marcus Smith masterclass, really, which is, Marcus Smith's bet noir, isn't it? That he'll be brilliant for one game and then, he'll be average in 3 games. Bit of a Cipriani's about him there sort of thing. But, yeah, a bit of a surprise result with us playing them next week. Also, Bath getting their first win in 154 days, during which time we've had 2 monarchs, 2 prime ministers and 3 chancellors of the Exchequer. So it gives you an idea, which is a fabulous factoid there from Barry. Brilliant stuff from Barry. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting next week against Sale Sharks because Sale haven't lost too many players to autumn internationals. We've lost virtually the entire first team. But they're coming off of a defeat now and coming to the StoneX. I mean, we're going to be putting out a team that is shorn of Makavinapola, Jamie George, KP, Maro Toji, Hugh Tizard, Theo McFarland, Billy Vanapola, Owen Farrell would have been away, but it's now through injury, Max Malins. That's an awful lot of names missing. We're going to be relying on a few members of the Dad's Army. I mean, Alex Good, I imagine, is going to be playing at 10. Jackson Ray's going to be back in quite potentially at 8, and then the youngsters as well. Callum Hunter-Hill has stepped up this season, done well. He's obviously going to be coming in at second row, I think, and did well when he came on as well. But Theo Dan played brilliantly when he came on, but there's going to be a few kids out there as well, isn't there? So are we worried about the weekend? I mean, normally if you've gone 6 from 6 and beaten Exeter away from home, you're sat there thinking, it's like when you see the snooker, isn't it? And someone potted 6 reds and 6 blacks, you suddenly start thinking, well, hang on a second, something special coming here. But then we kibosh it by having so many players away on international duty.
Well, I think it's only the England players and Andy Christie that are actually unavailable this weekend, I think. So that would make it our team a bit stronger. But yeah, I mean, if you're this is the ongoing problem with rugby union shooting itself in the foot, isn't it? We want a competitive league, and then we take the best players out for. Not that England players are even going to be playing at the weekend, but yeah, we've still got to be confident because that confidence runs throughout the entire squad, and it will give opportunity for younger players to come in, like Theo Dan, who, as you say, come on and done really well. I'm always confident at home anyway. if you lose 9 home league games in 11 seasons or whatever it is so far, you've got to be confident. But Sale are a good side. They're well managed by Big Al. So yeah, it'll be a tough one, but I'm hopeful.
Yeah. Well, and yourself, Joe, what do you think?
Well, I reckon it'll be tight. I still bet on the boys though, as always. I think they'll come through. They've got clearly a lot of confidence from the game at the weekend just gone, and I think that will carry them through. And I would hope to see, as you say, some of those young players coming through, making an impression and taking their opportunities. So hoping for a good competitive game, but I think the Sarries will come through.
Well, absolutely, yeah. Well, let's hope so. Let's hope it's a really good game this weekend. Just before we move on, just wanted a quick word about the amateur side of things. And last week we heard that Vicky Fleetwood had broke a leg and dislocated her ankle. Unfortunately, Ben Branfield of Saracens Amateurs has done exactly the same injury. And we know that is an horrific injury. So best wishes from us on the Fezcast to Ben and Saracens Amateurs on that one, and hope that his recovery is swift and not too troublesome for him, bearing in mind how serious the injury is. Anyway, let's have a word from another one of our advertisers, and then we'll be back with Matt's chat with Monique and Ine-Mari of Saracens Mavericks about the forthcoming netball season.
Hi guys, I'm Alex Linton and I'm a proud Looseheads ambassador.
I'm Sydney Gregson and I'm a Looseheads ambassador.
We're a rugby mental health charity working to tackle the stigma. You can find us at Looseheads on all social media channels or at looseheads.co.uk.
The Looseheads mission is to place a mental health lead at every rugby club. Get in touch now to find out more. Take care and enjoy the rest of the podcast.
Enjoy the rest of the pod.
Is the Fezcast.
Okay, so our guests on the show for this week, I've got 2 Mavericks players with us, Ine-Mari Venter and Monique Meyer, who, Ine-Mari has joined us twice on the show already and has somehow agreed to come back for a third time. We've not put her off just yet. And Monique, a new player to the Mavericks for the 2023 season. So good to have you both on. Thank you very much for joining me.
No, it's great. Third time, always a charm.
See if you're still saying that by the time we finish.
Yeah.
But I'll start with Monique, if you don't mind. Obviously, as a new member to the team, what we normally do with someone that we're speaking to for the first time, we get a quick history of either your rugby or netball career, depending on what guests we've got on, and just let us know what brought you to the Mavericks in the first place. I mean, I must admit, I've had a little Google, because as most people know on this show, I am probably one of the worst people you could talk to about netball, but I've been trying for 3 years now to learn what's going on. So everything I know about you is from Google, and thankfully for you, there isn't an awful lot out there, other than the fact that you played for one of the best named teams I've ever heard in my life, the Golden Fireballs. That just sounds amazing to me. But what's your history in netball, and what led you to the Mavericks?
Yeah, well, this is, I think I have to start with this. This is my third time trying to come overseas playing over. I think it's been a long time coming, and I'm just glad that the third time I actually ended up where I wanted to be. So yeah, I'm quite excited to be part of the team and everything. And yeah, so like I've played for the Golden Fireballs. I'm also a Sport Protea netball player, so it's the national side of South Africa. So yeah, I've played for a few varsity. I played varsity games, and then I played just our netball, Telkom Netball League that we played, where I played for Fireballs, and then I played for. I also played for the Northwest Flames as well at a stage. So yeah, that's just me, actually. Quite boring, actually, but now that I am myself. But yeah, no, I'm just me, nothing more.
That's fair enough, and there's no such thing as boring on this show, because I do it, and everyone that hosts the show with me will tell you I'm the most boring person here, so don't worry about that. Anyway, third time here, third season with the Mavericks. What led you to sign on for another year?
Well, the main reason will probably be because next year is a World Cup year. So it would just be silly to move clubs in a World Cup year. I've built a good foundation here, and I've built a good connection with the players in the team, and also I have a really good relationship with Saracens. So, yeah, it wasn't a difficult decision since my plan was to stay a third season. But, yeah, I'm excited. It's new, totally new environment, a new coaching, new club setup, a lot of new players. So hopefully it will create a new result at the end of the season.
No, that's fair. I mean, yeah, obviously there's been a lot of changes in the squad and in the coaching team this season. But so the two of you are here on a pretty brief stay, I guess, from flying over from South Africa from training, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah, just a quick short hello and then a quick bye.
That's fair enough. So. I know it's obviously quite brief, but how are you finding the first few days with this new squad?
Yeah, well, I think for me, Ine's been here for quite some time. So for me, I think it was very important to come now before the season starts next year, to just settle in a little bit, getting to know everyone, getting to know what especially Coach Camilla wants, and yeah, just to meet the players, because I think also combination-wise, it's going to be, because there's so many new players, I think combinations will really play a big role, and that's why I think it's important to also come now for a bit, literally like just a few days. So yeah, I'm very excited about it. Yeah, I'm glad that I could be part of this. Still so much more to learn. I think I'm very excited to learn a little bit more of the England style of netball. I've been so used to us back at home. It's always been the same, and now to get better, you need to be with the best. So hopefully that's going to be my experience, yeah.
It's quite interesting, actually, because I'm racking my brains a little bit, but I think you've pretty much said exactly the same that Ine did when we interviewed her 2 years ago when she first turned up. So it sounds like you've been talking to each other quite well.
Yeah, it does.
I'm assuming, given the fact that you're both sitting in your kitchen together waiting for chicken to cook, that you do know each other quite well before turning up. Obviously, being in the same international squad together.
Yeah, I think obviously we've known about each other. We've roomed together a few times, but I think we don't really know each other that well. So this will be also actually a great learning curve for us, getting to know each other off the court as well. Because I think we pretty know much, because we used to play against each other. So we pretty know the player side of each other. But personal-wise, we'll learn about each other and, yeah, get to know each other a little bit better.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, okay. Sounds like enemies becoming friends here.
Something like that, yeah.
It's not personal, it's just business.
Yeah.
No, that's fair enough. I mean, the next question I wanted to ask really was to Ine. You've now come into a slightly different coaching staff at the Mavericks, obviously with Kat moving on and Camilla moving up in the ranks a little bit. Have you noticed any sort of similarities between how things are running, given that the coaching team is still fairly similar, or is it quite different to the last couple of years?
Well, we've only had 2 sessions back. And some of the players are still occupied with school responsibilities, like their teaching jobs and stuff. So we haven't had a full squad back yet since being back. But yeah, obviously I think the main difference is Cam's one of her focuses is to make our team more professional. And I think by the fact that Saracen's taking everything on board, we have a full-time physio now at court, full-time S&C, which we've never had before. So I think that's really incredible. And especially us coming in from Protea duty, we have a big program to follow, and we have a big season or big tournaments coming up. So for that to be able to do with somebody watching you and somebody observing and helping you, is a big difference from the previous 2 seasons. So, but we'll see how the coaching goes, because obviously we've only had 2 sessions and we haven't had actually a full session since we've come up from playing. So they've been managing us a bit and being in off season as well. So we'll know by the end of the week how things have changed since last season.
Oh, maybe we'll have to find out the next time we bring you on. Come on for a 4th time.
I should get a VIP treatment now, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say as well, you've got a full-time S&C person now. Hopefully they don't find out about your food page on Instagram, because that's clearly against a lot of...
we train hard enough, I've actually, talking about it, I've shown him, one of my first posts was Randy's Wing Bar in Stratford. And it's like, the food is just amazing. And we were talking about it because Rose was like, she needs to go back to this place. And he was like, what are you talking about? So I showed him the pictures so he knows about my food thing,
I think that's fair enough. You do work hard enough. As I've said before on the show when we've talked netball, I watch a match and I'm sweating just watching it. It's far too fast-paced and ridiculous for me.
Yeah.
Especially for yourself, Monique, in defence. That's I think that's when we spoke about it before. I think certainly wing defence is probably the position I'd like to play the least, just because of the amount of effort involved.
Yeah, you do all the dirty work, and the others get all the recognition for it. So yeah.
No. See, I'm learning. I'm learning what position I don't want to play.
Yeah, in our first interview, I had to make it clear that it's not a pitch, it's a court.
Oh, yeah.
They keep saying, how does it feel to run on the pitch? And I'm like, it's not a pitch, it's a netball court.
We've definitely come a long way, and thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah,
I will be hearing about that again for a year. But anyway, look, we should talk about the World Cup. For anyone listening that doesn't know, the Netball World Cup being held next year in South Africa, so even more pressure on these two potentially for a big World Cup. So, Ine, you played at the last World Cup, and Monique, I believe you're aiming for a first World Cup appearance. Have you got expectations, the two of you, for how you'd like it to go, or not looking that far ahead just yet?
Well, it will actually be my first World Cup as well. I tore my first calf. My first calf injury 9 days before the start of World Cup. So I was in the team, but I missed out. So actually, this one will also be my first World Cup.
Okay.
So it will be really exciting. I think everybody is really looking forward. I know everybody always talks about going to South Africa or visiting South Africa. So I think this is a great opportunity for South Africa, and not just that, for us as players. I mean, we're in a host country. We have all the support, I think, imaginable. So after our Commonwealth Games, we really are looking forward to just really pushing our performance. And we really want to do well in front of a home crowd.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the pressure is on, but I think everybody's ready and geared up to take it on.
Yeah. And I also think that, you don't go to a World Cup not wanting that gold medal. So, I mean, pressure is on, but also we have really put in the hard yards towards it. So I know that Commonwealth is not really a reflection on what we are all capable of as a country. So yeah, I think the last World Cup was a milestone for us, and also it's also the bar has been set. So we can't do worse than that. We have to really push hard and really to just perform better and to do better, especially in front of a home crowd. Always coming abroad and then playing against players and then against the crowd as well. That's not always on your side. I think that will be a big difference as well for us, having that big crowd, not only next to the court, but on our side. I think that's going to be exciting.
Definitely.
No, that's quite right. I mean, yeah, a home tournament for anyone is always going to be something pretty special. But I did read as well that SuperSport are broadcasting it with an all-women production crew as well, and it's always a big opportunity, obviously, for women's sport in general that is just exponentially growing as well. So it does look like it's going to be a fantastic tournament, really. Hopefully an opportunity just to put both netball and women's sport even further into the public eye, I guess. But in general, like the media coverage in South Africa of netball, obviously I know very little about it, if anything at all. Is it particularly well covered normally back in South Africa, or?
Yeah, I think it is. Like, I think Varsity Cup was well covered. I think the league back at home, most of the games are covered. But so how the Super Sport works is there's like almost 20 Super Sport channels by now, but we're like on the back ends, like the last few channels of. So we've been pushing because you get like a Super Sport Rugby channel, and there's like 5 football channels, and there's a cricket channel, but we don't have our own netball channel. And I know that's something the president of Netball South Africa has been really pushing towards, so that we get more exposure as a women's sport and also as netball. So yeah, I think the World Cup will set a standard, and hopefully the standard remains for coming tournaments, coming exposure for netball.
And also, the closer we get to the World Cup, the more interesting it gets and the more coverage we do have. So, yeah, hopefully it doesn't just only build up to World Cup and then fades away afterwards. Hopefully this is the start of something new. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And, yeah, hopefully there's people back home as well that are following your progress while you're over here too. But, yeah,
yeah.
You know, obviously the fact that Monique, you've moved over to the Netball Super League the season before a World Cup. Obviously, you see that as an opportunity to play your way into that World Cup side. I guess the standard better. I guess maybe.
Yeah, I think when you train with intensity, it's always at a training camp. When we in a sport operator, and other than that, the intensity is not always that high. Competition is not always where we want it to be ready to compete in a World Cup. So I think coming here, that will definitely lift the standard of my play as well. And yeah, I think, like Ina said, I think it's the best thing to do to play abroad before a World Cup. Because you play against players that you might just find in another national side that you're going to play against. So now you're starting to get to know them, what they like, what's their play like, what do they like, what don't they like. So yeah, for me, I'm so grateful to get the opportunity, especially the year before World Cup. So yeah, I'm excited.
And just remember, all those fitness drills are worth it as well. It makes all the difference. Yeah. I mean, we've seen certainly women's rugby where there's different levels of professionalism. Just you can have exactly the same skill level as everyone else around the world, but that just extra 10% in fitness just seems to make all the difference. And I'm assuming exactly the same in netball, really. So just remember that when the sweat's pouring off of you, you don't want to do it anymore. But this is going out just as audio, but I can see the look on your face.
I was thinking about today's session. Like, every time I come to the UK, and it's probably because the humidity is so much higher than what we have back at home in Pretoria, is today we just the gym, and I was like glowing from the sweat, and I'm like, my shirt was like completely wet, and I was like, so that's not even a fitness session. So even yesterday, I had to do off-feet conditioning in the bike, and I was like, it was just so hot, and I was just so sweaty. So that's not even full pre-season, and I'm already sweating away.
Now, is that better or worse than your pre-season of a couple of years ago, starting with COVID twice? And
oh my goodness, yeah, that was. I spent more time in isolation back then than in pre-season.
I won't make you relive all of that.
That year alone, I've spent over 40 days in isolation. It's crazy. I can't believe that's 2 years ago. Yeah. Not even.
Oh, no wonder you chose to talk to us. Something to do.
Yeah, I think I interviewed you in just after isolation, and we were talking because it was me and Camilla, and we were talking about, hopefully I don't go back into isolation. Literally that next day, one of our players tested positive, and we went back into isolation. I was like, we jinxed ourselves. Yeah. I'm pretty sure we jinxed ourselves.
Not good. Well, fingers crossed, none of that for this year.
No, nothing of that.
But yeah, Looking at the Netball Super League fixtures announced pretty recently. Obviously, there's a little bit of upheaval going on with the Wasp side, but we're not going to talk about that because we don't know anything about what's going on there. But there are plenty of fixtures out. Is there anything in particular you're looking forward to next year out of those fixtures? Or
I'm just excited to see what the team does. Like, obviously, we want to be in that top 4, and we've been saying this. Well, I've been here for 2 seasons now, and they've been saying it for 5 seasons. So I think that's really something. A lot of the teams changed. A lot of people moved around everywhere. I think Loughborough is one of the few teams that more or less stayed the same. So I think I'm really excited just to compete against those top 4 teams to get a spot at the top 4.
I think that we had a lot of changes in coaching staff and also new players and stuff like that. But I think we shouldn't forget about all the other teams that also had that big shuffle in players as well. So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting seeing that we're not the only team that needs to build that connections again from scratch again. So other teams are also going through that. So yeah, I'm very excited to see how all the teams are going to go.
No, that's fair. And you actually answered my next question, which was a much better question about the fact that teams have had a lot of upheaval, and you're sort of seeing it as a bit of not a clean slate, but a chance or a big opportunity to make some changes. And as you say, after a few years just missing out on the top 4, there's obviously plenty of opportunities around, but a lot of other teams that clearly wanted to make changes as well, make improvements. So the Netball Super League season is back for 2023, and the season gets underway on the 11th of February with the season opener at Nottingham's Motorpoint Arena. A jam-packed day of action featuring 10 clubs across 5 games of netball, and the matches are played out at home and away venues through to the finals weekend in June. So the Saracens Mavericks' first match at the Hertfordshire Sports Village will see the team face Leeds Rhinos on the 18th of February. And then there's away fixtures against Loughborough Lightning and Surrey Storm in the first doubleheader of the season. Grand final on the 11th of June 2023, after which the attention turns to the international calendar and preparations for the Netball World Cup, which will be held in South Africa, as we've just discussed, from the 28th of July to the 6th of August. So, on the Saracens website for seasonal memberships, which are on sale, there's an early bird offer of £180 for adults and £135 for under 16s until the 10th of November, where you can guarantee your seats before the prices go up. And that is one of the most professional things I've ever done on this podcast.
Well, we appreciate it. If that makes you feel better.
We give you applause.
I need it. You should hear the last time we tried to do something like that. But no, everyone that's listening, obviously, it is an incredibly exciting game. Netball, obviously, our audience is mainly rugby fans. Very, very, very slowly shifting over and discovering the world of netball, and there's plenty of perfect feedback from it as well. I enjoyed the first game that I went to, which I think was against Surrey Storm back in February last year, potentially. It was, I think we actually discussed it not long after, or it might have been London Pulse.
I think it was London Pulse, because our first game against Surrey was away, and that was the weekend I tore my calf. And then we played them only at the end of the season back at home. So I think it was London Pulse. We literally were ahead by like 12 points, and we won that game with a point.
Things went very, very wrong in the final quarter, and if netball is as exciting as that game, then everyone should be involved. But yeah, no, it's very good fun. Yeah, definitely recommend it for everyone. But well, Monique, Ine, thank you very much for joining me. Don't be a stranger again. We'll hopefully get more of the team on the show as well, particularly once the season rolls around closer. And best of luck in all of the fitness sessions and all of the international prep as well. And hopefully we'll talk to you again before the World Cup starts. That'd be fantastic. Yeah. Both of you, thank you very much.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for your time.
This is the Fezcast.
Hi, this is Jess from the Fezcast to tell you about another one of my passions. I love music, and I have my own radio podcast station, Taka Blowpig Radio. This is the home of great music presented by myself and my friends, be it folk, rock, indie anthems, progressive music, you name it, we've got it covered. So if you want to listen to some great music, tune in to us at mixcloud.com/TarkaBlowpig.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
Well, welcome back to our final part of the Fezcast. And yeah, brilliant little chat there from Matt. I think Matt enjoys being bullied by the Afrikaans girls. I think there's something we need to watch with that one on there. But yeah, looking forward to the Mavericks kicking back off under new management, new coaching structures, few new players coming in. Be interested to see how they go this year. But we'll stay with women's sport and have a chat about, firstly, Saracens women, a big win, or well, I say a big win, but a good win for them against Loughborough Lightning on the weekend. And then a huge win for England Red Roses against South Africa. But first of all, Loughborough Lightning game, Joe, you were there, obviously. It was a bit of a to and fro, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. Saracens come out all gun blazing, and then Loughborough come and equalised, and it was very, very much to and fro. Quite a close game, but again, the sun was shining. A nice little crowd come out to watch, and some good travelling support actually for Lightning, to be fair, as well, which was nice to see. But it was a competitive game. Fee McIntosh co-captained with Cara Wardle. Fee player of the match, had a really strong game. But once again, I was really impressed with some of our newcomers. So Grace Moore, who played 8 at the weekend, absolute stalwart, is such a good runner with the ball. Just goes into beast mode and just absolutely powers through people. She's going to be a real asset coming into the Premier 15 season. And Lisa Martin come down from Scotland, played at 10 and was an absolute belter off the tee. Was her kicking performance was just brilliant. So it was really nice to see some really strong performances from the team. And once again, May managed to get herself on the score sheet. She does like to make a try or two. Does Miss Campbell. So it was a really competitive game. I think Sarries deserved the win. But it was nice to see some of the youngsters that were both started and came on get some game time and played really well as a team.
Now, of course, the other thing is we mentioned last week and we mentioned before in our first part about leg breaks and ankle dislocations, which are really nasty. Vicky Fleetwood around, or is she still recuperating, or did you get any news on her?
I think only from picking up from what Sarries have put out on social media. I think she's due to have some surgery in the coming weeks. So again, I'll just echo there that we wish her well in her recovery. But anyone that follows Vicky on social media will see that she's been back beasting it in the gym for what she can do, albeit leg in an air cast, and hopefully we know her mentality to be fit and strong, and I've no doubt she'll take that into her rehabilitation as well. So I fully expect her to go all guns blazing with that, hopefully in line with what doctors tell her to do. But I really wish her well, and I know that everybody in the SSA wishes her well in her recovery and rehabilitation. Hope to see her back at StoneX very soon.
Indeed, and hopefully perhaps we can get to speak to her at some point as well on the Fezcast. It'd be lovely to have a chat with Vicky. Moving on from that, brilliant on the weekend as well to see England against South Africa, 75-0. England led for the first time by Marley Packer, who did... It's quite an interesting thing. Now, I'm going to say something here that my wife pointed out when we got up at silly o'clock in the morning to watch it, as you do. But then again, the dogs get you up anyway. And you had Sarah Hunter, 172,000 caps or whatever it is she's got for England, on the side. The hydration technician, she was calling herself, the most capped hydration technician in the world. And you could see the difference between Marley and Sarah, in particular when it comes to speaking to the referee. And I think Shaz summed it up. He said Sarah Hunter is, she's hard as nails. We know that. But she's also very polite and very well-spoken and kind of approachable. Marley, we know, is polite. We know she's lovely. But she does look as if she's about to give you a slap at any time, particularly if she's not happy with the way the result or the. And I think there was one point where the girl got yellow carded for the high tackle with a shoulder into the chin, which I think should have been a red card. And I obviously Marley thought it should have been a red card because her comment wasn't that a red card, sir? And the only people who did think it was a red card was the ref and the TMO, I think. And it was quite an impressive one. I don't know whether Sarah Hunter might have got a better result, but no, brilliant work from Marley to do the captaincy. And all the Surrey's girls, Poppy Cleal had a majorly big game as well, I thought. But they all, Hannah Botman, they all were superb. Did you see the game, John?
Yeah, I've watched it back. It was just, obviously, when you look at the scoreline, I knew what the score was before I watched it. So I knew what I was in for. And to be honest, I really wanted to watch it just basically for Marley Packer, just to see how she went as captain. And yeah, the one Saracens player that I was impressed by was Poppy Cleal, as you said, who played at 8. She was great. But it was nice to breeze into the knockouts now with such a comprehensive win, which is now win 28 on the bounce, is it? So yeah, looking forward to the Australia game now. Is it next
Sunday morning at 1:30 in the morning? I think that's going to be one where we'll record it and do the old likely lads thing of trying to avoid the result before watching it when we get up for the dogs like. But interesting Simon Middleton, though, Joe. He's been quite vociferous in his comment. Well, I'll say vociferous, but there's an element of narkiness about him that he felt they got a bit of unwarranted criticism after the French game. And we threw out a little bit of criticism ourselves, particularly with the French try. I mean, I do think the French did one thing in that game and they scored a try from it. Simon Middleton was very frank in saying, look, we were never in trouble in that game. Okay, the score wasn't huge, but then France are a good side. But we never felt in trouble. We never felt like we needed to go up the gears much more than what they did do. And look, we've won. We've got through, and as Barry pointed out last week, it's not the group stages that you need to be throwing everything about. It was quite interesting actually as well, seeing, I can't remember who was doing the commentary, the punditry, but Maggie Alfonsi saying she wanted to see perfection, and the girl on commentary saying, no, I don't think you need to see perfection at this point. You just get through the games, you get out the group, and then you start perfection when you play New Zealand or Canada or whatever. I mean, where were your thoughts on that, Joe?
Well, I kind of get it from Simon Middleton. He was obviously frustrated with some of the media feedback that came out of the France-England game. England are very familiar with France. We play them every year in the Six Nations. That's always the final battle, if you like, for the Six Nations Cup. But I kind of agree with him in some ways. He's got plenty of assets, hasn't he? I mean, you only have to look at the way he rotated the squad for this weekend. Plenty of people making their debuts for the Red Roses in a World Cup. And they still came out with that scoreline. I think he was probably frustrated that they got the criticism, even though they'd won. It might not have been a huge scoreline, but when you look at the result of France in the Six Nations over the last 3 or 4 years, it's only been by a maximum of sort of 12, 14 points. They're always close games. The French are beasts in defence. They have got a great defensive technique. And they're probably one of the few teams when you look at England's Red Roses and the way that they play, that can, in the Six Nations, how to help stop England from scoring. And they're one of the few teams that have learnt that. Now, if I'm Australia, New Zealand and and others, I'm following what France have done, because France clearly have found a bit of a formula to stop England from going over this try line 14, 15 times in a game. So I can understand Simon Middleton's frustration on that, to be perfectly honest, because France are a good team and they always come good at a major tournament. And it doesn't matter their results. Unfortunately, they've had some serious injury losses. Sansus, who is absolutely brilliant at scrum half, and I don't know whether their number 8, Roman Mager, will come back. She had a really bad concussion in the game as well. So I think it'll be disappointing for Simon that he's had that feedback from the media. But when you look at the positive side of what came out of this game, the Sarries players particularly, you've mentioned Marley there, captaining the team for the first time. She'd have been absolutely over the moon for that. I thought she did a really, really good job. I don't necessarily think that her engagement with the ref was positive or negative. I think she did really, really well. I did like the question of was it a red card, but I actually thought the ref rationalised it quite well, both with the discussions with the TMO and with Marley afterwards, and she took it and kind of didn't push the boat. It's very easy in a situation like that to turn around and go have an argument, because we know that Marley can be a bit fiery, but I thought she handled herself really, really well. Box played well, Poppy played well, Zoe was all right off the tee, probably a little bit disappointed from her own professional high standards, but it was great to see again Jess Breach and Sarah McKenna get their run outs in the World Cup. So and I have to do a big shout out for Rosie Gallagher, because although she's overplaying with Quins now, she is Sarri's family, and she was absolutely superb. And for me, she was player of the match. It was close between her and Tatiana Hurd, but she was absolutely fantastic, and I was really pleased to see her cross the whitewash 3 times.
Well, I think it's given Simon Middleton an interesting quandary going into the quarter-final, because I do think a few players that perhaps weren't first names on the team sheet have stuck their hands in the air. Tatiana Hurd, Rosie Gallagher for certain, for 2, really have ups there, giving Simon Middleton a nice headache to have as to who he leaves out for the Australia game. And also, I do think that there's an element that Simon Middleton's happy that he got some criticism, because it does foster that them against us kind of attitude that a lot of teams will feed off of. It's good that you can go in there and say, now you can go out and prove everybody wrong, which is great. Yeah. I think there's lots of rugby we've talked about. There's lots of rugby that's going on and whatever. We are going to be looking forward to Sale Sharks on the weekends. Are you going to the StoneX, John?
I am. I am indeed, yeah. Can't wait to get back. Right.
Excellent. And Joe, are you making your way to any rugby over the weekends?
Oh, this is a very interesting question. So, Saracens are scheduled to play Wasps in the Cup, but their Cup game was cancelled against their opponents this weekend. So that will be an interesting one to see if that game goes ahead. I'm not preempting the fact that it will do or not, but they are due to play Wasps away at Twyford Avenue. But I suspect that might also be a postponement, but we shall wait and see with bated breath. Other than that, I shall be bleary-eyed over the weekend, both Saturday and Sunday morning, watching those quarterfinals and hoping to get probably a little bit of a nana nap in the afternoon to recover.
Absolutely. Idris, you mentioned Wasps there, Joe. I'm just going to say one thing as well. I have a little rant at Wasps, where the statements come out this week that they're a bit annoyed that the players that have been made redundant by Wasps, through Wasps' own fault, through their own mismanagement, are being offered derisory contracts by other clubs. But, excuse me, there's a salary cap. I mean, how the hell do they expect people to be, and you look at some clubs that are taking players on and you think, how are they going to be under the salary cap? But yeah, that's just me having a quick rant. Look, thank you ever so much for your time today, Joe and John. And I'll say goodbye from the Free Jays. We could be a soul band, couldn't we, from Detroit or something? The Free Jays, like the OJs.
I don't think any of us sing, Jez. So I think that's probably a no from us for any kind of band. But maybe we can play some.
You heard my singing earlier on with my awful version of "Come On Eileen." I think we wouldn't be successful. But no, thanks for your time, guys. Thanks everybody for listening in. Our next show will be going out on Wednesday, the 2nd of November. Blimey, we're properly into November now, and fireworks and God knows what else coming up. So, thanks, John. Thanks, Joe. And thanks, everybody, for listening in. This has been the Fezcast, and we'll speak to you again in the near future. Cheers.
Bye.
This is the Fezcast.